What is testing? So it's the first part of the first chapter, first level of the ISTQB. There's a lot of content to go through. Right now, I'm gonna focus on the what is testing, okay? And I quote these from the syllabus. So the software system are an integral part of life, from business, from commerce or consumer products that you consume every day. You know that software is everywhere. I bet you did, and I did as well. And like everybody else, we always have that experience of something did not work as quite well as expected. That can lead to problems, to upsetting, to loss of money, loss of reputation, and in worst case scenarios, injury or even death. And software testing is essential. It's part of the overall quality of a product, and it helps reduce the risk of a failure. So hence that's what software test is in a nutshell. We use software in one way or another. You use as well. We use software to build software. And like I said, I bet that one of us must have come through an experience when you try to use an app or purchase something or fill in a form, and that did not work quite well. And the way to mitigate this before you put it out there for the users to use is to mitigate this problem is to software testing. So we have software environments where developers develop and then publish in the test environment for testers to test. And also we have some beta users or business users or test users that are more independent from the development point of view to try out the system before it goes out live for everybody else to use. This is in a nutshell. I quote again, misconception of tests is that it only consists of running tests, like just going executing tests. It's not just about just going, click and press buttons. And in the syllabus, they explain this quite well as well, that saying that and they will follow on the ISTQB exam. There's this static testing as well. And that there's the planning, the analysis, all the things prior you actually go in and see the system run, the UI level, or where you can go and press things. Okay, there's these activities as well that are very, very important before you get the actual product. It's much more than just go and press buttons. You don't just go and sit and say, oh, okay, I'll wait until the development is done, then I can go and press some buttons. No, there's other things that you can do before that. And this is quite important, and it will follow on the ISTQB exam. So there are other activities like planning phase, analysis and design phase, the implementation execution, the exit criteria and reporting that you do, and then the closure, like say, all concluded now. As early as you get involved with it, it's better. Just always push for that. I know I've worked in some places that they avoid getting testers involved as early as possible, but it's good. You can help. It's a collaboration, and you can help asking questions. Why this, why that, how? And then it can help you start to understand, how am I going to test this before you actually get to see the product? Because by the time you get a product, you might have a short time window to test as well. So it is important to bear this in mind. There's much more things to do than just press buttons. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say, okay? And I'll explain these as we go through. Okay, yeah, so the 5 fundamental test activities and test tasks from planning to test closure, this is more from, I took these from the older version of ISTQB, but it's still valid on the new one. And the new one, they just split it out a little bit more, which I explain further down in these slides. But it can give you like a nutshell. And like I said, I like to repeat and to do repetition in different and explain different ways about the same thing, because that, I believe, it helps, imprint it in your subconscious mind. It becomes second nature. Planning and control. So planning, verify the mission of testing. Control, monitor, checks progress and take action. So at the analysis level, when you get the requirements and the information that you need prior to the product start or as soon as you kick off. So the test analysis and the test design. is the testing objectives to create the test conditions, the test cases and all the information that you need to prepare to design your tests. So how am I going to test these? And then, I'm planning to do this, and that. The implementation execution is the activity where the test procedures or scripts, if you are automation tester, are in order and that the environment is set up and test run. So have I got all the test scripts that prior I start? Have I got it ready? Is the environment ready? And can I just, all the setup is ready for me to execute what I wanted to execute. All these verification is done at that level. Activity where the test execution is accessed against the defined objectives, where you evaluate the exit criterion report. So have I run everything that I wanted to run, all the tests that I intended to? How am I progressing? Can I conclude what I'm doing? And also where you evaluate what you have been testing in terms of bugs and the discrepancies and clarifications and things like that while you're running the tests. Bear in mind that in the analysis part as well, you will do some questioning on the clarifications where you test the static test it is, which I explain about static and dynamic in the next few slides. And test closure occurs at the project milestones such as release completion, cancellation, or maintenance, which is very, very important. Maintenance, what's going to happen afterwards, after we deliver. And that's the test conclusion. Okay, so I quote again on the foundation level syllabus 2018. There's going to be a lot of quotes, which is quite important, so we know that we are following through the syllabus. This is quite important, and I expanded in the further slides. The static tests and dynamic tests. So the dynamics test is where you go in actually using the system. You test the components of the system. You test the end-to-end, the functional of the system. And that there's other test that does not involve the execution of the component or the system, but you do other type of tests, which is checking the documentation, peer review the code, and looking through the code as well with the developer. And that's called the static testing. Testing also includes reviewing work products such as requirements, user stories, and source code. These will fall in the ISTQB exam. Okay, remember this bit. Dynamic testing. Just put some graphics here just to kind of show you and help you memorize as well. I think we are humans, we are better memorized with some images rather than text. Like I said, I will repeat many times in different ways and talk about the same thing. So I'm talking about dynamic testing and static testing, but taking out, extracting from the syllabus. So software testing can be divided into static testing and dynamic testing. So the static testing is anything related to reviewing something, like a documentation or talk through, an email or request, a conversation, a walkthrough, someone like explaining something and showing like, oh, this is the idea, this is what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking in design this and that in that way. And also the inspection, where you look in more details on the final defined documentation, where it has been signed off by the business, say, look, this is what we want. And dynamic testing, it's the functional and non-functional, which it will be again expanded in further slides. So don't worry too much about it right now. Just have that in mind that when you dynamically testing something, there's the functional test and non-functional test. Further down, another quote. Let's just move these out of the way there. So another common misconception of tests is that it is focused entirely on verification of requirements, user stories, and other specifications. While tests does involve checking whether the system meets specified requirements, it also involves validation, which is checking whether the system will meet users and other stakeholders' needs. So there's no point in build something that it works, there's no bugs. Okay, so the system you can log in, you can go through it, you can fill in an application, you can submit something, or you can capture all the information that you need to capture in the system without crashing. But in the end, the business user don't accept or doesn't like, because it's not the way they envision to be using. So there's this part of quality check that you need to have in mind as well. When in the exam ask you about, are you just doing validation verification? No, but there's something else as well. So does it meet what the stakeholders expected to be delivered? And that's something that a quite tricky question that they ask, but just have that in mind. Again, just a little bit graphically of what we just talked about now, about so the user and stakeholders' expectation. They speak with product owners, they produce a documentation with the architect and the BA, and write the specification. And then based on the specification, that's where the developers and the tester work on from, and goes through the process of the development lifecycle and delivers a product. Between these processes where you do the validation based on the specification, right? But when the product is delivered, does it actually meet what the stakeholders expect it to be? And that's where the verification part is done. You can get involved in that as well, and you should. Some places don't want to testers to get involved in it, but it's I personally think it's really, really important. And again, don't get just trapped on just doing the analysis. You can get, it can be endless in analysis. Just do enough to get the acceptance criteria signed off by the business, and then work against that acceptance criteria. You will notice that sometimes you want to go beyond, but you can't because of time, budget, time constraint, or the budget is limited, or the time it's beyond the scope, basically.